In this video, I have a look at how you can deal with the problem of moiré in your photography.
Adorama TV presents Take and Make Great Photography with Gavin Hoey.
Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that has everything for us photographers. And today I'm in the studio and I'm being joined by Sam. Do you want to come in? So Sam's going to be modelling for me today and I'm just going to take a picture and show you a potential problem that you may come across. Okay, let's just take a shot. So at first glance, this picture looks absolutely fine, but closer inspection and you'll see it has a problem. The problem is known as a moiré pattern. Now in this video, I'm going to talk about what causes it, how to check for it whilst you're shooting, and also how to remove it. Moiré patterns appear whenever you combine two fine patterns. And in this case, it's the man-made pattern on Sam's shirt, combined with the very fine pattern of pixels on the sensor of my camera. Now, when you combine them together in just the right way, you will see a rainbowing or circular pattern appear, and that's moiré. Now, we never used to have this problem. We had something in the cameras called an anti-aliasing filter or low-pass filter, and its one job was to remove this problem. And it did it by ever so slightly blurring the picture. And of course, we don't really want slightly blurry pictures, so those sorts of filters are slowly disappearing from modern digital cameras. Now, it's not just a portrait problem. It can happen with architectural photography and anything with a fine pattern. Nature and landscape, well, it's less common with Mother Nature. It's generally man-made objects that have this effect. Now look over to the side for me, and then back at the camera. So how do you know you're going to have a problem with moiré patterns? Well, sometimes it's obvious, just the clothes that someone's wearing is a giveaway. Other times you're not going to expect it, and it's not easy to see it on the back of the camera. To be sure it's there, it's always a good idea to take a test shot and then use the zoom facility to review your images at 100% or more. That should really give you a good idea as to whether there's a problem or not. Of course, if you've got access to a computer, actually putting your images on the computer, well, that will show you straight away. And if you can get to the problem first, you can deal with it in camera to a certain degree. So once you know that you're going to have a problem with moiré, there's a few things you can do to alleviate it. And I'm going to look at three different solutions. The first solution is pretty obvious. I could get Sam to wear a different shirt. That would solve the problem. Anything with a bigger pattern or even no pattern whatsoever, and I wouldn't have a problem anymore. Downside is that's not necessarily a solution. It could be a photo shoot where this shirt is vital for the entire shoot. It could be an architectural shoot and the moiré is coming off of roof tiles from a house, for example. That you couldn't really change. So whilst that's a solution, it's not always practical. The second solution is to change the camera settings. So I can do a couple of different things, and I'm going to start with the aperture. So I'm currently shooting at f5.6. Let's take a shot like that. Here we go, Sam. That's great. One more. Just put your thumbs in your pocket for me. So at f5.6, there is plenty of problems with that shot. The moiré pattern is there and very clear. What would happen if I choose f8, a stop difference? Well, I can dial f8 into my camera. I just need to adjust the flash. That means it needs to produce one more stop of light. I can do that on the remote, 3 clicks. That's one stop extra light from the flash. That should balance up the exposure. Let's take the same shot. Here we go. Brilliant. And at f8, there's still a problem. I can still clearly see the pattern on the shirt. That didn't work. Okay, let's try one more. Let's try f11. So again, I can dial in f11 on my camera, increase the flash power to compensate by one more stop, and take the same shot again. So at f11, the problem looks like it's almost gone. There's still a hint of it here and there, but surprisingly, by changing the aperture, I've managed to reduce, if not quite eliminate, the moiré effect. So what else can I do? Well, I could also zoom in. So I've gone for quite a wide shot at the moment, but If I take a much closer, more tight shot, the problem should just go completely. Here we go. That's great. Just look down over there for me. Bring your eyes back to me. And as you can see on that shot, there is no problem whatsoever. By zooming in closer, I've made the pattern on the shirt just a little bit bigger so it doesn't interfere with the pattern of pixels on the sensor, and that solves the problem instantly. But once again, of course, it may not be a solution because maybe you need a certain angle of view. Of course, there's always a third option, and that's to fix it in post-production. Both Photoshop and Lightroom have some tools to help you reduce moire, and we're going to have a look at those right now. There are, of course, plenty of different ways of achieving the same result inside of post-processing software, but the way I'm going to do works with both Lightroom and Photoshop Adobe Camera RAW, which is what I will be using. And it's pretty effective too. Let's have a look. So here we've got Sam, and at first glance, there really doesn't seem to be a problem here. And that's because we're looking at a high resolution image on a low resolution screen. To really see the problem, you always have to double click on the zoom tool or have a look at the one-to-one view, and that's when you'll see for real the damage that the moire effect is having. And there's two problems here. There is some weird stripes and circles. That's a telltale sign, but also a rainbow color that doesn't exist. This is a pure gray shirt. So two things I need to deal with. The color, in theory, well, I guess I could just take the saturation away and that will fix the problem. Except it doesn't, because I'm left with the stripes still, and of course I might not want a black and white image. So that's not really a solution at all. What I need is a tool, and there is one, that specifically removes moire. Now you might think it's going to be hidden away with the noise reduction and sharpening. That would make sense, but it's not. This is a local tool. So it's found underneath either the adjustment brush, and if I come down here, here it is, moire reduction, or the graduated filter, moire reduction, there it is, or the radial filter has it too. So those are the three tools at the time of recording that you'll find this effect on. Now I'm going to use the adjustment brush. It's the slowest but more accurate way of working, and everything on the adjustment brush setting is zeroed out except moire reduction that I'm going to put to around plus 50. Then all I'm going to do is get a nice big brush and we'll just start painting over this part of the shirt up at the top here, and hoping, crossing my fingers, that it'll work, because nothing appears to happen for a while and then magic happens and it disappears, more or less. There's always a bit you miss. There you go. It's that good. Now let me just tell you a couple of things before we get too carried away. First of all, this is a slow process. It will slow your computer down. It will take time. Be patient. Secondly, it's not an out-and-out solution. This is a software solution. It has its limitations and it can have some disastrous drawbacks, and we'll look at those in just a second. So keep that in mind. But on the whole, that looks pretty darn good. Okay, let's just move down to the rest here, and I'm just going to paint over the rest of his shirt. And obviously the more time I spent here would give me better results, because there's things like his sleeves and everything else that needs to be done. There are some areas where I've got that sort of patterning, and it doesn't matter how many times I go over it, it won't go. So keep that in mind. Not everything is a perfect solution. Now when I come up to the top, I can see there is a little kind of grey area on his neck here. And if I accidentally paint a bit sort of hard around that area, that's going to extend and become worse. The reason I like to do this with a brush is it gives me the control to paint the effect where I want it to go. Now I mentioned earlier that I start with 50 as my control here. If I pop it up to 100, you'd think that's going to be better. But it will have a more detrimental effect on areas where you have a crossover of tones and patterns, because it'll try and apply the moire reduction even where there isn't any, and you end up with this sort of bleed effect coming in onto things like skin tones and hands and other things around the object you're trying to remove the problem area from. So the art with this is to take the moire reduction down and start with it fairly low if you can get away with it. So down here I can still see a hint of something. It may or may not come over on the video in that area there. I probably need to go up to sort of mid-30s before that goes, and probably even sort of 40 before it's gone to a level where I'm happy. Now I'm still left with a slight grey halo around the neck area here, so I'm going to jump from the add to the erase. I'm going to erase that back using a nice neat small brush. Again, I need to be patient because this won't happen live. When I let go, I have to wait for that to render out. Again, faster computers may make that happen even quicker, but on my little computer here, well, I just wait a few seconds and there we are. So there we go, there is the Moiré fix. Let's have a little look at before and after, side by side. I think you can agree that whilst it's not absolutely perfect, that is acceptable, good enough. I don't think anybody would notice a problem was there at all. Well, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more from myself and the other amazing presenters here on Adorama TV, you know what you've got to do? You've got to click on the subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.